All right, welcome everybody to this week's client support webinar. We do this, of course, every Wednesday, so great to be here again. All right, so if you have questions for me to address during the session today, we're going to be together about half an hour. Please type those in the questions window associated with the webinar console. So it's a GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar console, and there's a questions area. So that's how you communicate with me. And let me know if you can hear me okay. Hopefully it looks like the audio is working okay. Just always like to be sure. And if one or two of you can just say audio good, that would be good. And we are recording this session. Of course, all the recordings are held in our YouTube channel in the unlisted area. So you do have to have a special link to get in there, okay? That's important. All right, so let's jump in. Let me go through first my administrational items. We have to, of course, let you know about the risks involved in trading. Like I always say, without that risk, there is no opportunity. So the two really are kind of married and go hand to hand, right? But we want you to understand that there are risks. It is possible to lose some or all your money trading the financial markets. Also, too, past performance does not guarantee future performance. And don't forget, we work in a realm of probabilities, which means that even using a system that gives us an edge, it's not always right. And because of that, in order to keep your trading profitable, you have to use risk control on each and every trade to keep the losses on those ones that don't win at a minimum. And that way your winners will exceed your losses as an average. And that's how you have an edge, right? All right, so keep that in mind. That's really important. And that's what risk control is all about. And it incorporates calculating your trade size, which is also known in the industry as your position size, to be taken on each and every trade. Of course, that's the number of shares on a stock or an ETF, and also the number of contracts in the futures markets and pips in the forex market. All right, so let's see what else we can talk about here. Finally, also too, make sure you check with your money manager or financial advisor to be sure any of the things we look at or talk about today are suitable for you. We don't know your personal situation, and of course they do. All right, so I think that takes care of what you need to know about risk. Now we can help you with calculating trade size and controlling your trade risk. I got two great books on that, Money Management for Traders and a Trader's Money Management System. So check those out. My newest book, The Art of Trading, really excited about that. I think it's going to be the best book I've ever written. I'm putting a lot of new information in there, and it's also got a lot of information about our new trading systems that we put in there since our original book, our new indicators and things like that. So definitely check that out. You can get this in the website if you go under education and then go to books. And then that leads us to the software that you either have purchased already or maybe considering purchasing, or perhaps you own some of it but not all of it. And so this is what all of it looks like. We got charting software, we got scanners, and risk control software at the bottom. So we pretty much cover the gamut of what you need in quality trading tools. All right, so what do you got for me today? Anybody out there have any questions? I think, Al, you were having trouble with your Ninja. Did you get a hold of Ninja and talk to them about that? And if you need any additional help from me, let me know. And of course, if anybody has any stocks they want me to look up as well. So I'm looking at USO here, and you know, we're bullish on USO, and that's the ETF for the oil. So we think oil is probably going to eventually go up. I think it's going to pull back here a little bit. We've kind of got a situation here where you've got a target that hasn't quite been reached yet. And then if we look over here, you've got a red owl and a red PTF. So it's still kind of working its way down into that target area. So I kind of think USO is pulling back. If you haven't gotten this already, you could get a good buying opportunity at some point. Now, if you traded this swing up only, well, then that means you're going to be out of the market and you're going to need to get back in if it resurges, right? If you're staying in this market, well, you want to have your stop under this pyramid here, okay, right here. That should keep you in during the corrective phase. And then after that's over, it should bounce up. So again, if you're new thinking about getting in USO, I would probably wait until that 60-minute chart on the far left is bullish, because currently it's got a red PTF and a red owl. And of course, if you don't know what I'm talking about, feel free to ask and I'll explain that. Notice too, I have multiple time frame analysis up. So I have 3 charts that have all our indicators on each chart. And I have a 60-minute chart on the left here, which is our short-term chart. And our intermediate chart is the daily chart in the center. And our longer chart is on the weekly. All right, so Al, what's going on? What's happening with your Ninja? Why are you having trouble? And this is a place for you to come for me to actually possibly help you if you're having issues with a platform or any type of software that you use in trading. If I'm knowledgeable on that, I can help you. Okay. Otherwise, you know, some of these things, when it's a situation with the actual charting vendor, you have to work directly with them, especially when it's data. You know, when vendors import data, like, you know, if you're on Ninja Trader and you're using TD Ameritrade's data, then, because that's your brokerage, then if you're having trouble syncing up the data to Ninja, we really can't help you with that. That's something that Ninja, you have to work with Ninja and your data provider. And you know, a lot of times, you know, if a platform or a data provider doesn't update, they may not be in sync. So you may lose that connection if they don't stay in sync. So if you find something not right with the syncing of your data, whereas before it was fine, but you noticed an update either on your Ninja or possibly they did something on the data provider's end, let them know so they can know there's a problem and get it synced up, okay? All right, let me see what Al's saying. He just sent me a message here. All right, let's see. Cannot get to the can't get it to download all my art and MTF scans. All right, so are you getting data into Ninja? That's question number 1. Are you getting data into Ninja? I want to make sure it's not a data problem. The other thing to do, okay, is let's take a look at this. So let's say if you have, for example, let's say if you go up to connections, okay, I happen to use Ninja Trader's streaming live data, but you know, you could also use TradeStation or other brokerages. For example, if you go under configure, you can use eSignal, you can use Continuum, Coinbase, Interactive Brokers, Forex, FXCM, you can use TD Ameritrade and so forth. So you can use a lot of different data providers. So if you're having trouble, you think, with the data, all right, then what you want to do, okay, you want to go into connections, and then you want to go into, and I would disconnect any of your third-party data and go into kinetic end of day. See that one up there? You want to click on that one. And this is free data, and it's good data for charts of a daily time frame and above. They won't give you data on the intraday time frames. But this is a good way if you're having trouble, maybe you're not sure if it's an indicator giving you a trouble, or if it's data, or if it's Ninja. If you go to that free kinetic data area up here, so you go to the control panel, go to connections, free end of day, and disconnect all your other data. If you get price bars and you get a normal looking chart with all the indicators you wanted loading on it, then that's not probably a Ninja Trader or a studies problem. That is a problem with the incoming data from outside. All right, so that's a good way to test it. All right, let me just see. He's sending me a couple of the messages here. Let's check and see what we got cooking here. Okay, all I get is Ninja Sim data. Okay, so under connections, you get Ninja. Well, yeah, you need to contact Ninja for some reason. Maybe something got screwed up with your license. All right, so definitely give them a holler over there. Sounds like that is maybe something to do with that, okay? Because if you're not even getting kinetic or connections end of day free or anything like that, or the ability to connect to a free data, then let them know and they can help you with that, okay? Okay, so that's where I would go. And then you can keep us in the loop through our a ticket system on that. All right, anybody else? Anybody in USO right now? If you're in USO, let me know. Unfortunately, if we're right after this pullback here and it resurges, unfortunately, that's going to be higher prices at the gas pump too. Probably later this summer, even though summer's almost over, right? I'll have to say this fall, time's going so fast. All right, so don't forget, you can also use our software on the intraday time frames. All right, so our software can be loaded on all time frames, all markets. This happens to be gold right here. All right, but you can come down and you can put it on the MES or the ES, whatever you prefer. Okay, 5 minute, 1 minute, 15 seconds. Software works on all time frames. Okay, well, contact support. They'll send you a link and let you know. You'll need to get Platinum Care if you want Mark to go on there and get it all set up for you. It's well worth the money. Just so you know, he's really good too. All right, so there you have that. And let me ask you a question. How many people out there do day trade? How many people out there, I'm curious to see how many people day trade. One thing I think you've got to realize with day trading is it takes a lot of patience. For example, we have a day trading room, as you know, and I'll just give you an example. Yesterday, we had, by the time the room opened, which was 8 a.m., the market had already sold off and it was going into a corrective mode, which is a very difficult time of period during the day that you get sometimes to trade. It's almost worth it if you missed a big trend and it's going into a correction to just sit tight and wait until either the trend resumes or there's an opportunity with enough profit potential that you want to actually trade the correction. But you got to be really patient because you got to be really good on waiting either for the bottom or the resumption of a trend. And that takes patience because when we look using our software, we're using all 3 time frames. And there are times when we do a counter trend trade, which would mean basically going long, even though, for example, the long-term chart may be showing that you're in a downtrend. For example, look at here, okay? So we're in an uptrend here, okay? It may go a little further, but then there could be a corrective trade possibility. But it calls for really being really good at identifying a top. And this is where our software and 3 time frames really come into help. Well, for one thing, we know we're getting close to the top for a variety of reasons, right? Okay, you've got 1, 2, 3, possibly 4 pyramids. We make one more high. That'll be the 4th pyramids. And statistically, after 4 pyramids, the trend is considered pretty mature and ripe for some type of profit taking or correction. Question is, at that point, is there enough profit in the correction to make it worthwhile? And you know, we can just bring the fib extensions right up here like this, or fib retracements, and put it right from there in the current top. And you know, this is most likely where it will correct. So then it becomes an issue of, you know, where's the top? Because I think it may make another high here. Where's the top? And then redrawing the fibs. And then by the time the lower time frames signal an entry to a short trade, it depends where that is in relation to the profit target. Because if, for example, it's a messy top and you don't get a short trade to here, and your stop has to go way up here, it's not worth it because your risk to reward is not that much compared to the profit, right? So there's a lot of factors that come into deciding that. And if that's the case, then you'd be better off waiting for it to come to the corrective area and then taking the long trade after that and drawing fib extensions for that. But in any case here, we got a situation where if we make another high, we now got triple divergence, so we're almost close to that. Got to wait for this pyramid to turn a P, and then you'll have 4 pyramids there. Redraw the fibs once the next high is in, if that happens. And then you got to decide, all right, the next step is when to enter. And so you're going to be looking at the owls. You're going to be making sure you're not going against the PTF on the time frame you want to control the trade on, and so forth. So that becomes a skill, an art you have to learn. And some people, there's lots of different techniques you can use. Some people may not want to counter trend trade at all. Some people may not want to do that style of trading, and that's fine. But you'll find that your personality will gravitate to a certain style, and then you want to master that. Okay, master all the aspects of that. Become a real expert at it. And so, picking tops or bottoms is one of the areas I really like. And it's very structured. And sometimes I have to wait, even on a 1-minute time frame, an hour, and sometimes an hour and a half to get that really good entry. Okay. It's kind of like a great example. It's a little morbid, but a great example is if you watch the movie Captain Phillips, where they put the Navy SEAL sharpshooters on the back of the ship, and they were looking for the right shot, and they had to wait and wait and wait until all 3 suspects were in the sights. And that's kind of exactly the kind of temperament you have to have when trading tops. You have to wait for all those variables to align themselves before taking the shot. And I can tell you one thing is that sometimes the best trade is no trade and be patient to wait, and it's very boring sometimes. Day trading and trading short-term time frames like that can actually be very boring because there's times when you're sitting and waiting for that setup, and quite frankly, it's not very exciting. All right, because you're so structured that you're waiting for all those things to align before taking the shot. It's not like the movies portray it, gunslinging and getting in your Porsche and living the high life. It's not that, okay? It's really not. Good trading is very structured, and it's not gambling, because that other is like gambling, okay? So big difference. Does that make sense to you guys? And if you disagree, let me know. But in my experience, that has basically been what I have found to be successful day trading, or any trading, is to have structure and play that structure and make sure that structure is your edge. But it does require a degree of discipline in order to implement it. And of course, if you're looking at daily time frames and not focusing on just 1 or 2 markets intraday, then on the daily time frames, what you can do is look at different stocks. So you have that luxury. You don't have to wait on like Tesla to be perfect. You can move on to Amazon or something else and see if those are set up. So when you position trade, you can literally, go from stock to stock to stock to stock, or futures or whatever end of day, until you find the setup. Whereas when you day trade, sometimes you're stuck on a handful of markets and you got to wait until those markets are precise. And that's where it can take some time intraday while you're waiting. Whereas position trading, you can just thumb through different markets until you find the right one, because there are more of them you can look at. So a little bit different type of, you keep busy by thumbing through those stocks at night, looking for position or swing trades on a daily time frame or above. Whereas day trading, you're going to be stuck waiting for that correct setup on just a handful of markets. So a little bit of a difference depending on how you day trade. Now, if you day trade stocks and you got the scanner scanning for you, okay. But if you're day trading futures and just a handful, then there you have it. All right, so as expected, we did make one more high on this, okay, which is great. All right, thank goodness our indicators kept us out of going at, taking an early short, but it's still moving up, and now we got pyramids here. We're kind of in the fourth pyramid, so that indicates now we got a situation of a mature trend as identified statistically by the pyramids after 4. And certainly here we've got bearish divergence now on all the lower time frames, but we still have a green owl, so we can't even consider a short until those roll over a little bit. And we probably are going to want to wait for a pyramid after we think we got a top in. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It depends how clear the top is. And that all becomes the art of trading, so to speak. And then if we take the trade and our goal is based on a retracement pretty far down, even on the 5-minute, then you want to make sure you give your stop some leeway in order for you to reach the goal. And what I usually like to do, the other part I like to do, and this will be done differently, is usually if I get a quick profit, all right, I will take enough shares off the market and try to move my stop to a really good spot still. So I'll try to take enough shares off so wherever I have to move my stop, and I don't want it to be too close, that the trade has much lower risk, if not break even. Now that's not meaning that as soon as I get a profit, I take enough shares and then move it just to the entry price. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you move your stop to a place on the chart where you can still try to make it to the target. So it has to be far enough you can make it to the target, but by the same token, eliminate the risk in the trade altogether. And so that means, markets will give you sometimes a big break and then retrace before it starts going down again. So if it's a short trade and you can get a really nice big break really quickly, where you can lock in some decent profit, it may pay to do that and then move your stop with enough contracts that even if you left your stop where it was, it would be a break-even trade. And if you get to the target, then you'll get to the target with the remaining contracts. And there's pros or cons to doing that. Okay, so you got to see what method suits your personality. And then you have to keep good records, because if you do that too much and you find that you're getting to the target zone with such a small trade size that your wins are not bigger than your losses, then you've got a problem, right? And you have to curtail that down to a more reasonable way in which you are developing a break-even trade. Maybe not selling so many shares, scaling out so many shares or contracts, and instead being a little bit soften on that. So it'll be depend upon where your stop can be, and it'll be depend upon the results you get based on your personality of when you're scaling out. Okay. All right. Al wants to take a look at EOSE. Let's take a look at that bad boy. EOSE. Okay. All right, so EOSE looks pretty good, Al. All right, again, classic reason why, in the beginning of these breakouts, you can get wild volatility. So if you had your stop here, you'd be stopped out and you'd have to go back in again now because you just got a pyramid. If you happen to have kept your stop at the very bottom, well, then you'd still be in the trade. So it did not make a new low on this. So you can go back in now on that pyramid if you got stopped out, okay? So yeah, I still think it's a good trade to the upside. You've got a green PTF at above 550, okay? And you know, if you just made a if you just took the inflection point between here and here, it could get up to 1268 to 20. So I think it's a trade worthwhile. I actually like it, as you know, okay, because we've talked about this before. But it's tricky, you know, in these lower price stocks too, you know, depending on the liquidity, you can get some big movements, okay? My pleasure. So if you got stopped out, because this would have been a reasonable place for a stop, because usually once it comes up here and pulls back and makes another high, it's usually pretty safe to put your stop there, right? But that wouldn't have worked there. And again, welcome to the realm of trading because it's probabilities. Most of the time, you would not have gotten stopped out. But on this particular time, it would have been on the wrong side of the probability matrix, so you would have gotten stopped out. So you'd have to go back in, and you got the opportunity right here. Okay, so if you got stopped out, go back in. The other interesting thing about this is that from a probability standpoint is you had this inside price bar here, so you had a break above that, and that bottom's held, so that's bullish too. All right, you do have a red PTF, so you probably, when you have a green one here and you have a pyramid, you could wait for this to turn green, and it should do it in the next two price bars. But I think you'd probably be okay here. Looks like it's probably going to come up pretty close to do that. Now, what I would do with this, if you're trying to get here, is put your stop under here, okay? Be safe, put it under here, or at the very least, under this inside price bar. Don't use this pyramid, because if you get a point of inflection sell-off, it may hold, it's pretty deep, but it may not. Okay? Anything else? Thank you, Al. And just remember that in the markets, everything is probabilities, which means you can do everything right, and we're still in a realm of probabilities where things may not work out. So don't blame yourself or get frustrated. You have to realize that that is the business we're in. All right, well, we're coming up on the end of the half an hour. I don't want to cut it short, but if nobody has anything else, we can call it a day. But if you have another question, feel free to ask, okay? All right, everybody good? All right. Okay, well, good session today, and we'll take it up. We'll be here again next week. So if anything comes up in the week, let us know. Al, you can definitely contact our support area for help. They'll send you a information on the remote services called Platinum Care. Alexander, you're very welcome. It's great to have you here. Thank you. And I think, just so you know, I think we're going to have probably, I'll put a bug in your ear. I'm not exactly sure, but I think we're going to have a live tutorial this fall. Probably will not be, I'm not 100% sure when it's going to be. Could be actually late fall, maybe early December or even October sometime. I'll have to get with Gene and figure out dates. But there seems to be quite a bit of interest on a in-person tutorial session. We do these every year, and it will be in Tucson, Arizona this year. So the weather will be good. So we'll let you guys know on that. All right. And if anybody's interested, we'll send you an email out when we get a date picked up. But I'll put the bug in your ear. So if you're interested in actually coming and meeting me and me meeting you and actually work together. Usually these are private, small sessions. We get a small conference room in a hotel, and we're looking at live markets and so forth, and they're excellent, okay, when we talk about different topics and stuff. So we'll let you know on that, but I'll put the bug in your ear for right now. All right, so we'll see you back here next Wednesday, guys and gals. Have a good one, okay? And thank you for being here. Hope everybody rounds out the summer good here, and we got Labor Day now around the corner. All right, see you later. Thank you.